Hey everybody, welcome back. I hope you had a wonderful week. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to do some tips and tricks with the Dash DataTable. If you don't fully understand me, I'm sorry. I'm going to just try and speak slow. I just had dental surgery, but I'll try my best. So this app has a drop down that filters the number of rows displayed, and then 4 components, 2 drop downs that will filter the column above each component. See here, slider. So we're going to build this data table together. We're going to go over a new Python package called Pandas-Dash that makes it a lot easier to create certain data tables in Dash, like the pivot table right here, and another pivot table right here, like that. So I'm going to show you how to do that with a new library. We're going to go over code that shows you how to hide columns if the screen changes. So this is a smaller screen, and I'll refresh, and now you see only two columns visible. If you make it bigger, you see you refresh all 4 columns. And the last piece of code is partially sort columns. If you want to give the user the capability to sort only 2 columns and nothing here, then I'll show you this code. A lot of this code is built by the community, so thank you, Plotly Dash community. Alright, if you just want to have the code, you learn on your own a lot better, more power to you. Go to my GitHub on the link below the video, go to the data table, go to tips and tricks, and here are the 4 Python files for you to run and to learn. Don't forget, if you do that, please fork it, star it, and if you forked it, support it. This channel is based on membership, on people like you that appreciate my channel, that learn a lot from it, and give back to help support it. So thank you. Alright, so let's get started. Go to the code, like we said, download it so it's easier to follow along. We will start with the filter data table, this app. So download it. Let's make this a little bit bigger, and this is the code. If you don't have, you will need pandas, so pip install pandas. You'll need pip install dash bootstrap, and you need Python 3.8 or higher, because we're using the walrus, and the walrus is for Python 3.8. Alright, so let's see how we are building this app with the drop down here and the components down below. Let's make this smaller, like that. Okay, 1 second, make this easier for you. Good. So here we're just reading the data, and we're only going to use 4 columns. Start the app, and then we have our container. The whole app is inside this layout. We have a title. We have a regular drop down, that is this one right here with these options. And then we have the data table, just a normal data table with column names, data, and 10 to start with, 10 rows. And then here we have all the other columns. The bottom row, we have the 2 drop downs and the 2 sliders. 2 drop downs and sliders. This drop down is multi-false, is single, and this drop down is multi-true, so it's multiple countries can be chosen here. As you can see from here, multi-true. Okay. So what am I doing here? Here I'm building the component inside the layout. So I'm going to call this continent dropdown, and because it's assigned inside the container right here, assigned inside an object that is also assigned an expression, we have to use the walrus. So we're going to create this dropdown, just unique sorted names from the continent column in the data, and here's going to be the unique country names. And so that's why when you click on this, you'll see only unique continent names, and if you click on this, you'll see only the unique country names. Right? So what's happening, if you go below, we're going to connect everything through the callback. So let's see how the drop down is filtering the data. To do that, we're taking the 5 inputs. First, the first two inputs are the drop-downs, continent and country value. This is the value of the drop-down. So this value of the drop-down is nothing at the beginning. There is no value, but if I select, this is going to be the value Americas. So if I select Americas, this is Americas. And if this is Americas, I'm going to say here, make a copy of the data frame, and then if continent value is selected, if it's true, if there is something here, if it's not empty, it's not none, then filter the data frame. So in the continent column, only this continent shows up, Americas or Asia, and then you have a filtered data frame. So now you have a DF only with Asia continent under the continent column. And then we also check if the country value was chosen in the drop down. You see, country, if this value was chosen. If there is something there, then filter the data frame according to the countries chosen. Note that this is it. We're using is-in method because this is a list type. This is a list of two countries or a list of one country, but this is a single string because this drop down is multi-false by default. So here you have to use equal equal, and here you have to use is-in. Okay. Now the initial values of the slider. This slider is 0. Right here it's 0. And this slider, life expectancy, initial value is 20. And you can see this here as well. 20 here, initial value 20. So how do we build the sliders? We have here, if you do control left click, you'll see the first property is min, max, and step. So this is the same as min, max, and step. Oops, I quickly insert. What is wrong? Max and step here as well. Okay, but you don't have to write it out since you know the order. So from 0 to 100, from 0 to 100, steps 1, so it will go increments of 1, and the initial value is 20, and we're only going to see the 100 mark, only going to see this mark right here. Okay. So let's say I chose, let's skip to this one. I chose a life expectancy right here of 60. Now let's do 64. So this becomes 64. And if that is 64, then this is 64. And then I'm filtering the data frame. So the life expectancy column in the data frame only shows those rows where life expectancy is equal or over 64 and under 100, because no country has a life expectancy of 100. The maximum is like 90. And that's why when I return the data frame, I'm returning the data here, it returns is assigned to the data property of the data table. This is the first object returned here, and this is the second object returned to the page size, assigned to the page size. So if you go up, let's see what the data here is. This data, it returns all the way up here. So it'll be like this. Okay, see DFF. But in the second output, we're returning a page size. So we're returning this, whatever this is, we're returning right here to page size like this. Okay, but what is this? This is, let's go and see what row W is. Row value is the last argument, so it's the value of the row drop down. And the row drop down is right here. Row drop down, right this. So the value of this is 10 at the beginning, but if we change this to 50, now this becomes 50, this becomes 50, and then it is assigned to the page size. So then this becomes 50 right here. And if this is 50, Now you can see 50 rows on the page. And this is how you filter the data table rows with the drop downs. It might be a little bit complicated. If you need to learn more about the drop down and the data table, look at the playlist above. There are plenty of videos there. If you have any questions, go into the YouTube comments and just ask me. I'll try my best to answer you. Okay, let's go to the next app. The next app is talking about the Pandas-Dash library. This is this code right here, Pandas with Dash, that you can download from GitHub, Pandas with Dash. Open it and you'll see this code right here. And Pandas with Dash is a new library that was just created 2 or 3 days ago, and it allows you to quickly insert options to a drop down. So you see here we have a drop down here. The options are country options. So we can go up here, you'll see country options are just taken from built-in GDP data. 2 options, it's a method of Pandas-Dash, and this is the label, the country. So that's why you see different countries here. It's not tied to the data table, there's no callback, it's just a quick way to do a drop down. Another big advantage of Pandas-Dash is that it allows you to create this pivot tables. You just use pandas to create a pivot table, and then we can insert this pivot table into the data table, Dash data table. We'll do data GDP and columns GDP columns, and this comes from right here. Well, no, this comes right here. The GDP. Where is it? Here we go. GDP and GDP columns. So gdp.dash.doDataTable. This is a method of Pandas-Dash, and it allows you to create the data and the columns that are going to go into the Dash DataTable component. They do the same thing with tips. Really cool library. It's still being developed, so check it out. Pandas-Dash. Go to PyPy, you can see it. This last app, not last, but second before last, this code is going to show you how to hide columns. So if I make the screen smaller and I refresh, you'll see only 2 columns here, country and population. And this is the case because we're using the client-side callback. This code was written by Raptor Brad, and what we're doing here is we're taking the href property of the DCC location to read the properties of the page, and we're saying this is JavaScript. If the window is smaller than 750 pixels, then return only a list of only these names. And these names, this list, is actually a list of hidden columns. This is assigned to the hidden columns property. So we'll go here in the data table, and if we say, you don't need to declare this, but if you want to, you can. Hidden columns equal, this is the list that is returned when the window is smaller and the user refreshes. If the window is big and the user refreshes, then it returns it's more than 750, so it returns an empty list, so there are no hidden columns. The last code example is this one right here, sort X columns, and you're giving the user the capability to sort only 2 columns and not sort this. You see, you can't sort anything here, but you can sort by country or continent. And this code is written like this. It's was written by this person on the Plotly forum, very smart person who wrote very good code. And all they do is are creating their own column names. This does not exist in the Dash data table. They created this, and then they are creating the specific IDs. They're popping them out. This is a pandas method. This is not this. This is a pandas method. And then these two IDs, I'm printing them out so you can see right here. And then they're applying CSS. They're creating the CSS dictionary, and then they just put it inside the data table. Dash DataTable, table columns, and table CSS. That's it. So pretty straightforward. There was a lot of code here, so if there was something you didn't understand, please go into the video and comment, ask me any questions. Don't forget to like the page. If you are learning a lot, here is my Patreon link. I would appreciate it if you could support the content. It would mean a lot to me to support this channel. But that's really it. I hope you have a good day. Have fun learning Dash, and always remember we're better together, so help each other out.